Hi, Stefan. Welcome. Thank you for your time.
Alex, no
So,
problem. Thank
what's
you for
going
having
on?
me. Nothing much, just another usual development day.
Oh, yeah. So, I guess you had like the whole day like in VS Code and working, and now with the late time
yeah,
of the podcast.
yeah, pretty much. Meetings, coding, deadlines. You know how it goes.
Yeah, I know. But you said meetings. When you have the whole day meetings, do you feel productive?
Uh, Depends on a meeting. I don't have a lot of meetings, but sometimes you need information from the client, and uh, getting the information is the key sometimes for some projects, and those meetings are important. But all other meetings, like uh, I have one client from USA, and when I have the meeting with them, it usually goes around their problems in the company, and I'm sitting there and just thinking, why am I on this meeting? Why do I have to know all this? This is not important for the project. And those meetings are kind of boring, kind of waste of time.
So basically, you have for some of your clients like a therapist, because maybe you're even cheaper than a therapist, so
Yeah.
they can just say what they want and then
Yeah.
and go on with the day. And they're like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, Stefan is a good guy. He listens."
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They
So,
talk between themselves, like problems in
oh,
the company, which,
oh, that
yeah.
that oh, that's a little bit cringe when you are like the third party in a meeting and they start like battling each other, and you're like they're like mom and dad are like fighting, and you sit there and like, yeah, okay, good. Just leave me
Yeah.
alone. Can I go?
Can we talk about the website and development part?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But that's always like people have. You start like with, let's talk about the website, let's talk about development issues or to-dos that we have, and they stop at one thing and then drift off and then start like, yeah, we have this issues in the company and this. I think people are basically bad at
Yeah.
meetings, so it just always drifts off a little bit. But I think everybody has the same issue with pointless meetings that could have been an email or just a task or something like that. Let's get to the more
Definitely.
fun things for you. It's development. We met on, I think, on Twitter. Like, I met the most people.
Yeah.
And you are you correct me, you are a JAMstack developer. Just
Yeah.
JAMstack developer. Yeah. could
Uh,
could you
yeah.
please explain a little bit why JAMstack?
So I started uh, as a front-end developer back in 2013, I think. Basically, at the time, I was creating WordPress themes, custom WordPress themes, mostly HTML and CSS. Here and there some PHP, but most of it was just a front end. I was doing that for 5 years or so, and I started learning React at some point because as a front-end developer, I felt like you need to know React. It was so started to grow, and everybody wanted React. So new frameworks came around, Gatsby, Next.js, and it started to interest me. And once I started with Gatsby, I don't know, I think 4 years ago or something like that,
4 years ago, it was like 2019. It was 4 years ago.
2018, 2019, something like that. Yeah.
I'm missing 2 years. Like the COVID years are like not there.
Yeah. COVID years, basically. Exactly the same. So I connected the React, the Gatsby with WordPress, and it was like a magic. This is awesome. Everything is there. I can create like awesome stuff, and most importantly, websites are really fast, and that was the big deal for me. But I was not a React developer, experienced React developer at that time. So I started creating those websites, and in the next 2 years, I became really good with React. And nowadays, I only focus on JAMstack websites, static mostly, but sometimes we have some apps with different endpoints, API endpoints connecting. You know how it goes in front-end world. 2,000 endpoints on one website, basically.
Yeah. Great. The JAMstack that I first met in 2015 is a little bit different from what it's now, because the markup part was still there.
Yeah.
Like you would generate. The first thing that I used was Data CMS. It's like from Italy. It was developed by a small agency, and we basically grew with them. And then you would generate like Markdown files in your build folder, and then you will use like Hugo or Gatsby.
Yeah, Hugo.
Get the Markdown files and then generate everything. So what you are talking about is like, how is it like in the last 4 years? It's, in my opinion, a little bit more bloated. There is a lot of, as you said, a lot of API endpoints. From the simplicity that we had like 8 years ago, I was 2 years, to now, it's more like an application. It's not just a fast website. It's a huge application. If you use like something like Next and you're like Directus fan, I discovered Directus by your recommendation. Where do you see where it will go in the next few years? Will it hit like some high point, and then it will correct down because apps like or frameworks like Remix, they're like crazy. So it's not just let's generate static websites so we can have a much better user experience. It's like the content is like a different part. It's like add Firebase, add this, add that, and it will, in my opinion, it will grow to something that it will be so complex that we have to go back. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, I feel the same, because the last version of Next.js 13, I mean, it's not the last, it's still in beta, but they're all going to some server-side rendering now, where they're, instead of kind of statically generating the pages, it's being cached. So I think it's going a bit in that direction, but you can still, I mean, do the statically, but all the frameworks kind of going towards that direction. There is a Svelte which does similar thing. There is new Next.js and Remix. They all kind of going towards direction where the caching is big deal, instead of going to statically generating the pages. So I think it's gonna go towards more towards caching and server-side generating than statically all pages generated, like
Yeah.
it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, because it's funny. The static thing was like becoming mainstream
Yeah,
in the last 8 years, with the help of Netlify, because they coined also the term. And we had like before that, I think it's called Jekyll on Ruby. It was
yeah,
used for software documentation and like stuff like that, but it was like nerd things. It was not that mainstream. And now we are going to like something that was already available 10 years ago, like server-side rendering, because the whole point of, in my opinion, the whole point of JAMstack was you generate the website, you have a fast website in the first place, then you have like a secure website. Nobody can inject anything over a form or something because it's totally decoupled. And then we had like even the preloading, if you like hover over some links and then the website will be fetched. And it was like a stable system with an easy deploy setup. And now it's going to the things that we already had, because server-side rendering is, you can do it with Laravel. You don't need Next.js. You can just build it. So it's a little bit going off, but
yeah. I talked with senior developer 8 or 9 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, something like that.
You have to add the 2 years of COVID.
So I was talking with him and he told me, like, don't worry, it always changes, like from one thing to another and then back to the previous one, just a little bit different, but the concept is always the same. And nowadays, when I think about it, he was totally correct. It's like that we had server-side rendering for forever, basically, and now we are going back to it after the React era of client rendering, then static rendering, and now going back to server-side rendering. So yeah, but the difference is nowadays it's a lot easier than it was like 5 years ago. Technology really grew, and the deployment part, where you don't need any DevOps, you can just basically connect the GitHub and it deploys automatically, which is the big deal for front-end developers nowadays.
Yeah, that's the part that got me pretty quick, because it was like, what? You just need the GitHub repository? You just need like the TOML file with some, I guess it was like the API key or something like that, or in Netlify, you just leave the environment data, and then you just click on build, and everything works. And I was like in awe, and like, how the hell does this is sorcery. It's and 5 days ago, I'm building something on Laravel now, like trying Laravel with the help of ChatGPT and one developer. And it took me like 2 days to deploy the app. It's not working.
Set up the Linux.
Yeah, that's
and everything.
crazy.
Deploy.
That's totally crazy, because I know if I would build it in like with Next, then I would need like set up Firebase, which would be much easier to work with, and then hook up Next.js, and I would have everything that works. But I wanted to try Laravel because I use it like in version 3 or 4, I don't know, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't know. And
it's been around forever.
Yeah, but it's not a good developer experience if you are not familiar with it. If you know it, then it's easy, like with everything. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Mm, the term JAMstack, what does it mean for you? Because there are like different versions of the same thing. Like for one, it's JAMstack. For others, is Mach or MACH, and there is like also the composable thing. It's everything the same, but it's kind of different.
Yeah, I read an article a couple weeks ago where the author said, I don't remember who it is, but he basically said we need a new term for JAMstack because it's not static anymore. It's a lot of different things, and I agree with that. We call it JAMstack, but nowadays it's that term. It's not what it used to be. So I guess for me, JAMstack means whatever it is, the frameworks around it, like Next.js and Remix, Astro, whatever they are, and whatever they can do, that's JAMstack for me.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know if you have the same feedback from clients, but most of them or most people don't know what JAMstack means. They're like, jam, what are you jamming? What's going on there?
Yeah,
And when you say headless, this is something they heard of, but it's still like not really embedded in the marketing departments. And when you say composable, that's like, I don't know, magic, different language. They don't know what's going on. How do you see that in terms of educating customers so they know what should they look for?
well, most of my clients don't even like they don't even care which technology I use to build their website or the app or whatever. They only care about the end result, and they're kind of some of them, they're kind of skeptic at first, but once they see the first initial product and see the performance and everything just, oh, this is perfect, I want this. And that's where everything changes, kinda. In terms of educating the client on the first pitch, to call it like that, I usually just send them like JAMstack code. You can read about it here. Here is the link, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, so you just send them to the website and say, okay, this is the JAMstack.
If you want to read about it here,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
basically, front end is decoupled from the back end. It's not the same thing as you usually do WordPress. It's not a page builder. It's totally different thing. It's stable, performant, and if you want to read more about it, here is the link. And that's where the story ends.
Yeah. So the client finds you on some channel, I don't know, GitHub, Twitter, LinkedIn, referral, whatnot. And
Referrals.
referrals, okay. That's the easiest one. And then they say, yeah, we need like, we have a design and we need a website. And then you scope that and say, okay, this could be like the CMS, this could be like the front end framework, and we will need like for fancy features, Firebase or Superbase, something like that.
Yeah.
Is that the way? Yeah. Yeah, that's...
It depends on a project. Some projects are just like web presentations, to call it like that.
Mhm.
So it can be, maybe it doesn't even need the backend part, so it can be just everything static, but it needs to be performant and stable. some project needs special features, like for example, some calculations or checking the inventories, something like that. And depending on the project and features, we do the scoping and everything.
Sounds solid. The thing that I see, it just came to my mind. I had a call today, and it was about like a JAMstack project, and they call it JAMstack project because it was like the project title was like JAMstack website, and they didn't know that. They were like, you have JAMstack websites, and then you have WordPress. And when I revealed to them that you can have WordPress in a JAMstack environment, they were like, no freaking way. Why are we doing this? We're doing it differently. Why not use something that is familiar with everybody? Because everybody can use WordPress. It's the most, if you don't use, I don't like WordPress if you like slap on a theme and add a builder that just puts all the HTML into database, and then you need like caching plugins and you need the CDN because it's too much for everything. But if you use it like with ACF, advanced custom fields, WP, GraphQL, and then next, it's a perfect setup. You can build whatever you want. But still, people have the misconception that you have to use WordPress in a certain way, and it sucks. And then people will hack your website, and then you will have porn and Viagra ads, and I don't know what. So that's and to my next question, where do you see WordPress, and do you still use it? You said you worked on your first JAMstack project with Gatsby and WordPress. Where is it now?
I started with when I started working with JAMstack, WordPress was my first go-to choice. Then I went to Strapi, and nowadays I'm mostly working with Directus. So I don't recommend WordPress as a headless CMS anymore, because I feel like Directus. Yeah, I feel like you're much more flexible with Directus, and for non-technical or like regular user, when he sees the first time the dashboard of Directus, there is no like explanations, no calls for guiding through the dashboard. It's pretty simple. I think Directus dashboard is the best out there.
So I just pull up the website. So Directus, every time I talk to you, you're like Directus. You're like the Directus voice. When I see, from my perspective, when I see it, it says power any project with a modern open source data platform.
It's confusing.
Yeah, it's confusing because Directus, like, again, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, they had like, I think they had a PHP version. It was initially built on PHP.
Initial on PHP, yeah.
I think on Symfony, and then they rebuilt it on Node.js.
Yeah.
And then they like relaunched or revamped it in like a software as a service solution. And when I first saw that, I thought they had pivoted away from the CMS to like something like a big data platform, because it was like the most confusing thing that I saw. But explain a little bit how Directus works, because I don't understand it when I'm here on the website. I
Well,
don't get it.
I think they are not so great with marketing, or they didn't even do the marketing, to be honest. Because when I first saw Directus, I was basically same thing like you. I was thinking, oh, you can connect Directus to your database, and you can have a dashboard with your data. That was my view for use case. But actually, no, it's you work with WordPress, so you know how advanced custom fields works. This is pretty much the same idea with clean dashboard and some additional features which are much better. You also have CLI for SDK for Directus, which you can install, and pretty nice developer experience overall. GraphQL API, some powerful permissions. You can choose any database, and it's open source. It's free. You can host it for $5.
Yeah, but for $5, it's, I guess, without the CDN.
That's a
and stuff like
cloud.
that. Yeah. But when you say like open source, then it's probably self-managed on some, I don't know,
Yeah.
Linode, DigitalOcean server, but it's possible to host it like and keep your data to yourself. Yeah, you said you can connect any database. Is this like because I never worked with this, so I'm asking stupid questions here.
So basically, I haven't tried this, but from their website, it's basically if you have an existing database of your application somewhere, you can hook it up to Directus. But I haven't tried that. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm maybe talking something wrong here, but from their marketing, from their copy on the website, that's what you can do.
Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah.
It's not the use case for me.
Yeah.
For me,
but
it's
it looks
just a headless CMS.
It looks like when you are running, like, let's say you're running on Oracle, your whole company, and you already have like an application there, you don't need to set up some different servers and stuff, different stuff. You can just use the things that are already available, which is pretty powerful. Yeah, that's
yeah, and you can have a nice dashboard for your app.
Yeah, I do have to do a deep dive into this because it's massive. When you look at this, you have like an ETL.
Yeah, you don't just try to install it, set up the schema, and it's pretty much with permissions maybe.
Yeah.
And also one of their powerful features are the flows. So basically, if you how to explain this? Flows
is it like the flows like in, let's say, marketing automation? If this happens, or like in Zapier?
Yeah. You can do stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's all no code, so you don't have to touch the code.
Okay.
To set up any of that, you can basically create a flow. When post is created, do this. For example, when post is created, trigger a webhook to Vercel to trigger deploy, stuff like that. Or when contact form is when data comes in from contact form on the website, you can send an email with the data from the contact form. Stuff like that. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I see it. It's really, really massive because, as I said in the beginning, it was like just a CMS, and they didn't have all the features. And I think in 2016, in 2016, it was like they didn't have like multi-language. I don't know.
Yeah, they
Maybe
do
I'm
now.
mistaking something, but I guess it was one of those open source things, or even Strapi. I don't know. But
Strapi is another mess on itself.
I know people used it because it was like open source and it was free, and then you had to set up everything, and they had like, I don't know, gazillion issues on GitHub, and I was like, I will never touch that.
Yeah, version 3 was awesome, to be honest, even though design-wise UI dashboard was kind of clunky, but it worked. Then they relaunched with version 4, and it wasn't good. 1 year after, dashboard is still not responsive. You can use it on mobile. And I don't know what's the plan with that. I recently saw that they published like a request for comments that they want to listen to community for ideas and where to go from in the next version. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but there was in a good path and something went wrong. I don't know what.
Yeah.
That's when I switched to Directus.
Okay. Sorry, I had to take care of some flat things that are going on here. We have some issues with our heating. Somehow the people, you have like the thermostat. Is it called thermostat?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you turn, and they installed it in a different direction. So basically, the water, where the water should go out, they added it. So the like the valves are heating.
It's inverted.
Yeah. So, and we are waiting for them to fix that, and sometimes it just start like a vibrating noise.
Hope it doesn't explode.
No, it's not exploding. I hope it's not exploding. So back to the fun things. So Directus is your go-to CMS. I asked it a few weeks ago or a few days ago. I don't know. Time is like something different when you have a child. I asked for the perfect stack. If I would build something, what is your ideal stack that I know you can always say this is like the go-to solution, but if you had like a unlimited budget, and what would you build? What is it like dream stack?
JAMstack,
WordPress,
Next.js, and Directus.
Okay.
Next.js and Directus. That's it.
Okay. Do you use like
if you need,
sorry, do you use like DAM, digital asset management, for images?
Yeah, S3 mostly when it's needed. But usually for the sites we work on, it's just nothing, basically. Just everything sits on the DigitalOcean or whatever hosting we use.
Okay. Is there...
Because I think, yeah.
No, go on. I think we have like a delay.
Because...
Do we have like a delay? Is it like...
I don't know.
I don't know. Go on.
Yeah, so let me continue so you can cut it later. So in most cases, you don't even need like how you say it, digital asset management solution. you just, because of the Next.js image component, it all goes through the Edge network, and it's all pretty fast. So that kind of helps with that part.
Yeah. We have like one project where we use the setup is basically like Sanity, Remix, and Cloudinary, because of the amount of images that the client has. So we need to be able to collect everything on one place, and from there to share it or to use it on the website for print purposes, for social media purposes and stuff like that. Because when you just add everything to the, like in WordPress times, everything in the media library, and then you need like an image, then you start looking, okay, where is it? Is it on the server? Is it somewhere in Dropbox? And I don't know where, because hunting for images, I think half of my life I was looking for files somewhere.
Depends on the project.
Yeah, definitely.
Cloudinary can be a good solution. I'd rather use them than S3. They have some pretty nice features with image cropping, CDN, stuff like that. But yeah, depends on the project.
Yeah. And do you use automation in the websites? Like when the client, you said it a few minutes ago, you can do like no code automation like Zapier. When something happens, then something else will be triggered. Do you use that, or is it even like a request from the clients?
Yeah, I have some flows in Directus for almost every project. From the basic ones, like contact form is sent, or collection is something in collection is created, trigger another webhook, send the data somewhere else, or for stuff like Algolia, when you need to index some data, you basically forward from CMS to the front-end endpoint, which will then forward to Algolia and stuff like that. But yeah, Directus can do everything.
You said you can send the data to Algolia. That means you don't need like a function. You don't need a cloud function. You can just do it with the automation. Is it correct?
Usually I create you can't. There is an extension for Directus which handles Algolia, but I usually want to have more control over that part. So I would create endpoint in the API folder in Next.js and handle the data there, and then forward to Algolia. That's mostly because of my preference and handling the data on my own than having Directus sending everything to Algolia directly.
Yeah, but I could just use Directus engine, send it. If I'm lazy, I could do it. So that's
yeah. Okay, there is an extension or plugin like in WordPress.
Yeah. Do they have extensions and plugins? You said it, I'm just looking at the documentation. I'm just trying to find something.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. Mostly you can find it on GitHub.
Okay.
Community versions. I don't know if they have some like official ones. They're mostly community versions. And from what I read in their Discord, they are in the process of making like a marketplace for all the plugins. which will help with creation of new plugins and growing the community, which I'm really hyped about. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think Sanity has like a decent, I would say, directory of plugins or extensions. I don't know how to call it. But what I'm missing is like a marketplace, as you said, where you can sell things. I would imagine something like the Yoast plugin, the Yoast sale plugin for WordPress. If you build that for Directus, that would be nice, because Yoast is like open source and you can use like everything from them and just build a wrapper for that. That would be, I think, a step in the right direction.
Strapi made their marketplace. I think it's market.strapi.io. So yeah, they have some plugins, which is kind of nice. I think Directus is making something similar, and I'm hoping that will grow.
I'm just putting that up. What this looks 116. This is solid. This looks
pretty much everything you need.
Oh, you even have like a ChatGPT integration.
Of course, who doesn't?
I'm waiting for my toothbrush to get like a ChatGPT integration. That'll be like something.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah,
AI is scary, man.
Yeah.
If you asked me last year about AI, I wouldn't be worried about it. But today I'm kind of, I don't know.
I think that's with everybody. But I have to check out the marketplace in detail later. I think that the AI thing is like, it was there for a long time if you were a developer in the field, if you're like very interested and invested and you are like, I don't know, maybe even scientifically in that area. And the moment when it got like an user interface that every dummy can use it, like you have like just an input field and you hit enter and everything comes back, then it like took off like last year in, was it October, something like that. And it's like more and more, it's easier to use over the time and you see it like everywhere. But I would argue that the technology was there even before that, but we didn't saw it.
Yeah, it was definitely there, but it's not as big as it's today. Like today, you have a couple big ones, OpenAI and Bard, which all of them are kind of huge, and I know what will happen, but it's kind of scary. Like I tweeted a couple days ago, you replied, the possibility that you will be able to connect some AI with your robot and it will be able to give it commands. That's scary, man. Really scary.
Yeah, I think the context of AI going rogue, like being conscious, and it's everything is like I Am Robot, like the movie. Everybody's like scared, or like what was it, Terminator. It's always the doomsday scenario. Yeah. So imagine you could use like Boston Robotics robots, the robot dog with ChatGPT, or like with something like that.
Any AI inside of it. That's scary. But
yeah,
that thing I don't think it's there yet, and I'm not as scared as I am scared that AI will change like how we work and everything. I read a couple of days ago that in next 5 years we will lose like 40% of the jobs, and that's scary because some countries like which are not developed, like Serbia, if a lot of jobs are lost, it will be scary.
I got your point.
I think that's the reason. That's the reason France, I think, and Italy banned AI tools because it can disrupt the country. That's the scary thing right now.
As I said, I got that point. With it, it will definitely get rid of jobs. That's with every with every that comes with every new invention or innovation, you will automate or get rid of something different. It's like the iPhone came and Nokia was like that. It's always something like, but there will always new jobs. There will always be new jobs. What?
Yeah, I'm saying this is much bigger, but yeah, you're right. Yesterday, I think I saw jobs for AI prompter, and I see them every day now. Like they're hiring AI prompter, new positions. Like
so, people that write prompts.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
yeah. That's
right
something. Now. That's. I think I saw Donald. No, not Donald Glover. Childish Gambino. His real name, last name is Glover. I don't know. He has an agency, like a creative studio, and I think it was like prompt librarian. It was not like prompt engineer. It was prompt librarian. I was like, is this person just copy pasting prompts into like a Word and putting it on a server and like in a real library? But
yeah, that's another thing that people are selling, like AI prompts, like a list of AI prompts.
Yeah, it's the same. Understand. Yeah, it's on Twitter. Comment with, I don't know, fire emoji or shit emoji or whatnot, and I will send you 100 prompts because I did like research for 15 days. Something like that. That's it. It's always you always have people that will jump on a wagon and then will try to make money or gain more following, or I don't know. But that's it was the same with the NFTs. Look.
Yeah, NFT. We forgot about that kind of.
But going back to the topic of AI, do you use AI in your development process?
Copilot mostly.
Copilot? Okay.
Yeah. It finishes everything. Like every map, every component in React does everything for me. I mean, not everything, but start writing, you know how it goes. Start writing, it gives you the result. Modify it a little bit, and the most important thing, I'm faster, like 40%.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So it increased your productivity, basically.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. I'm using it for Laravel, just so I don't have to read documentation too much. And then I use there is like a VS Code plugin. It's what it's called, something GPT, like Code GPT, Ask GPT, something like that, and then you can select like a code block, and then you can say refactor it, explain it, and explain it is awesome. Explain it is the best feature ever. It really explains like in this chunk of copy, like what's going on, how the function is called, what's this, what's that. And I think even if you're new or fairly new to development, you can use it and learn what's going on. You can take code from somebody else, explain it, please, and then you don't need the documentation, because to be honest, in most projects we don't have documentation.
Yeah, but that's where it can change. It can also write documentation. I don't know if you tried that, but you can also select the code block and write documentation, like write comments. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it populates your code with the comments, which are pretty nice.
Yeah, I think I talked last week.
It's a win for us.
Yeah, with Thomas. I don't know if you know him. He's solo entrepreneur, solopreneur. I don't know how to. He's basically running a one-man agency, and he sees also that, or he says that you can like use AI to become better and faster. That's something, and I think it will stay there at this point. I don't think it will develop like full-fledged applications without developers.
No, I don't think it will for the next 5 years for sure. Even after that, I don't think it will. You will still need developers to understand the code and pull it all together from the AI. So I don't think it will replace us for anything.
Yeah, but this will be the whole AI thing and development and the whole shift in the website thing. I think we are safe because people can't provide correct briefings, and you always have to fill in the blanks to build something. But in all the other industries, I think it will be, as you said, it's scary and it will be an issue. But I think Serbia will survive that because we have great people and we have great companies. And if everything breaks, we can go back to farming because we have enough land.
That's true. Yeah, so we all be farming. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Back to the JAMstack. In your opinion, what are the misconceptions about JAMstack? What are people getting wrong?
Frontend, in terms of, I mean, the thing that lacks the most in the whole JAMstack is the design and UI, CSS, stuff like that. Not a lot of developers understand the CSS, but they know React and the logic around it and everything, but they skip the CSS part. I think the most important thing, maybe not the most important, but one of the most important things in JAMstack is the CSS. Everybody skip that and create chaos in the code when it could be really simple. So I would say all developers spend more time on the CSS part. I don't know if that answers your question. It's not a misconception.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I have the same opinion, and we will get right back to it. But I was more thinking about like clients or the people that are not developers, because JAMstack is a developer thing. It's driven by development.
Yeah.
It's the thing that, because when a client comes and says, yeah, I want WordPress, I want I don't know, Joomla if it's still used by somebody, or I want Drupal. So this is client driven, but JAMstack is solely driven by developers, by people like you. So what are the clients getting wrong? Is there anything in your opinion? If not, it's fine.
I'm thinking I can't come up with anything. No.
No worries.
I have nothing.
Yeah. Back to your point, developers need to take care of their CSS. My theory, maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm right, is because most of the developers that are working with React and Next.js are backend developers. Because in the core is logic. It is React defines logic. So you pull data, you have functions, things are happening. So in most cases, I saw backend developers are taking the part or this part of integrating with a CMS or with an, I don't know, backend application, whatnot. And then comes like the front-end developer that just makes it with Tailwind nice. I think that's the big issue, because I'm in this industry like 20 years.
Oh, well, nice.
And that's a ongoing theme. You have front-end developers that really care about the UI, the interface, that even go further and learn about UX and UI design and understand how color theory works, how to set up a type scale and stuff like that. And then you have like the hardcore backend developers that are just writing controllers and views and models in the old days. And the template or the view, that's something that will be handled by a totally different person. So I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I agree with that. But at the same time, it used to be, that's the problem. Front-end developer role used to be doing CSS and HTML. Nowadays, front-end is React and all the frameworks, JavaScript, everything. But I think that needs to be separated from the CSS part. Like, front-end should be just a CSS, HTML, and I don't know, how would you call the React developers and other frameworks? It's a new name.
I think it is. You could put them in the backend developer part, because it is, the backend is always defined by logic. So you have like functions that are doing things. You have like calls to an API and stuff like that. It's all happening in components. But it is, even after so many years, it's still mind-boggling to me, because all the backend developers, I would guess that they are using the internet the same way that we do, and that they don't see the differences between like a button and spacing and stuff like that, because you have like a Figma file and then you see everything there. You have like the button, you can even click on it and get all the data, like the font size, the color and stuff like that. And even those things are off.
Yeah, you can even export everything. There are tools that can convert your Figma component into Tailwind. And yeah, I don't know what to blame.
There is always, just to get back to that UX point, there is always like the quote that designers should know how to code so they could build or design things that are feasible and make sense. Should developers know how to design or work, or should developers know how to or know about the basic UX principles and how things work? Like from the user perspective, not from the integration. That's one thing. But let's say, as an example, you have like an input field. You could do the validation of the field on the post. You click send, and then it does the validation, and it comes back and says, this is wrong. Or you could do the validation in real time. So there are two different approaches. Nothing is wrong or right, but back to my question, should developers know about UX, and should they study it extensively so they know what they are building and how it should feel? Let's say how it should feel.
In my experience, like having some of the experience in design and UX, UI, it's a huge advantage for developers. I think if you want to work on front end, learning the UI and UX will just like improve your skills a lot. When I hired a couple developers start of this year, and they were all good developers, but none of them had the experience in UI and UX, and they all made the same mistakes by not following the design and delivering totally different product. So that's an issue, and when we have to go back and forth with the tasks and the tickets and everything, it's just spends more time. And if you had some more experience in UI, it will be much better. So I think it's a big advantage knowing, but it's not necessarily needed.
Yeah, I think it's good to know how things work and how they feel, in order to build the product. And as you said, at the end, if you bill by the hour or you have like a defined budget and you go back and forth with the tasks, and in the end you spend more time on fixing things than doing things right. That's sometimes, Great. So we reached 1 hour. I think that's a wrap, because I think you are also tired.
Yeah.
I think the next one, I hope I will be this year in Serbia, and then we can do a real time, not real time, real life. Yeah.
That would be nice.
Talk. And I was even thinking about doing like a meetup, because most of the people that I talk to are from Serbia.
We could do that, yeah.
I was just going through all my 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 phone book. Or, I don't know how to say phone book, Rolodex. I don't know all the contacts that I have. I'm like, hey, podcast, are you up to? And they were like, oh, yeah, okay, why not? So that's
Well, we have a great talent here in Serbia.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, great, Stefan. Thank you very much for your time and your insights, and we will see each other on Twitter.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.